what I have to say now is going to take a few minutes longer. So, I wanted to have a few minutes to kill. Now, I've heard some people say only the police and only the military should have guns. As long as the police and military have guns, everything will be fine. And I've also heard our lunatic friend who loves stalking gun owners and loves spreading anti-gun propaganda about how we're all fucking mass murderers and shit, say that there should be a cop on every corner. In addition to that, there should be a surveillance camera on every corner. Here's the deal with that. Do you know how many streets are in this country? If every single man and woman, between the ages of 21 and 60 was a police officer, which is obviously impossible because some are not physically fit to be police officers, some are not mentally fit to be police officers, some are in fucking prison or are convicted felons. If every single man in this entire country and woman between 21 and 60 was a police officer, there still wouldn't be enough for every street corner or every street or every town. Wouldn't be enough. On top of that, surveillance cameras. It would be great for a surveillance camera to be in every corner, because if a crime happens, if crime is videotaped, you can convict the guy much faster. True. But let's face it, that will cost a lot of fucking money. It's one of those impossible things. Now, about the police on every corner, the police only being allowed to carry guns, all of the bullshit, okay. Can I bash the police? No, I can't. Can I bash the military? No, I can't. I really can't. I have friends and relatives that have done military and law enforcement. My dealer is a cop and former law enforcement. His son is a cop and former Marine. I just can't. But I've heard accidents, and 2 out of every 3 accidents I've heard of involving a gun involved a cop. Now, militarily speaking, for the most part, U.S. personnel are good people, for the most part. And I can never say enough good about them, and I can never say anything bad about them. But there have been a couple of exceptions to the rule throughout the years. And there have been a couple of times, whether it was Revolutionary War or Iraq, there have been a couple of times when U.S. personnel went nuts and hurt innocent people. By definition, U.S. troops are responsible and dedicated to their profession. By definition, U.S. peace officers, law enforcement, firemen, lifeguards, fucking parking attendants, anyone who is associated with peacekeeping in the town, village, city, state, is by definition responsible. But every once in a while they go rogue. Every once in a while you'll hear about a cop that murdered a citizen. You don't hear about it often, thank God, but you do hear about it. Every once in a while you hear about a cop that had an accident. Not often, but it happens. There has not been a single government in the entire history of planet Earth that has ever confiscated all arms owned by the citizenry and had a good outcome. The Soviet Union, every Soviet leader, Stalin, Lenin, they all confiscated arms. Karl Marx, the founder of communism, believed in the confiscation of weapons from the citizenry. Adolf Hitler, probably the greatest criminal of the 20th century and probably the greatest criminal of this millennium, of last millennium, my bad, believed that the citizenry needed to be disarmed. It's true. And you can ask anybody that escaped from Cuba, the guys that took fucking pool toys in Cuba and swam to Florida, they'll tell you how great it is to have a cop on every corner. If there's a cop on every corner, depending on what kind of state you have, depending on what kind of government you have, communism, democracy, fascism, that cop on every corner might be there to protect you from harm. That cop on every corner might be there to make sure you're not saying shit about the president. Like Castro and Stalin and Hitler and all that other bullshit. Saddam Hussein used to have secret police and all that other bullshit. Now, the German military, let's talk about Hitler for a minute. The German military, German people are good fighters. Whether they're good guys or bad guys, the German people are excellent fighters. You ever see the Swiss Guard? The Swiss Guard are those guys that guard the Pope. They're called the Swiss Guard, even though they live in Vatican City and guard the Pope. A very high percentage of them are German mercenaries. That's right. German mercenaries. Now, let's talk about Nazi Germany, which is probably the nastiest, most disgusting shit in the history of humankind. The German military was so professional, their allies were able to overcome the Germans during World War I and II because the Allies kept just sending troops and weapons and bombing, and they just exhausted the German military. But the German military was good. Now, if the citizenry in Nazi Germany were allowed to bear arms, I have no doubt in my mind that the citizens of Nazi Germany, in their uprising against Hitler and fascism, would have been lambs to the slaughter. But what did happen anyway? The Holocaust. Do you want to die in the street, or do you want to die in the concentration camp? Pick your poison. So, that is why many of my fellow gun owners, and a lot of them are more fanatical than I'll ever be. Many of my fellow gun owners go nuts when the government, any politician says we need to restrict the Second Amendment, or some politicians have actually said we need to not only revoke the Second Amendment, but actually confiscate guns that are owned by the citizenry. And that is why my fellow gun owners get the shit scared out of them. Especially gun owners who have family that were Holocaust victims, especially gun owners that have family that were from from the Soviet Union, especially gun owners that escaped Cuba. If you have a gun owner who escaped a regime, or who was descended from someone who escaped the regime, or who was descended from someone who died in the regime, okay? If a politician comes on TV and says, okay, time to revoke the Second Amendment and get these guns off the street, you know what he's thinking? He's having fucking flashbacks. He's having flashbacks to when his great-great-grandfather told him about Hitler on the podium, talking about how he's going to help everybody. That's the problem. And that's why gun owners get so fanatical when you talk about their Second Amendment. Because they read history books. They watch history documentaries. And they think that the Soviet Union is coming here. Or Nazi Germany is coming here. And that's why they're so nuts. Because gun opponents are saying, why are gun owners so crazy? Because the last fucking guy that said we need to take away guns killed more people than cancer. That's why. Hitler. I'm going to get to this and I'm going to wrap it. I'm going to read this book. 8 minutes. I have 6 minutes to wrap this up. Let's see if I can make it. I'm not going to read the whole thing because, god damn it, 2:59 it was. Justice Scalia had a 2:59. Justice Scalia had a 3-page response here. We're only going to read a little bit about it. Now, Justice Scalia did say that we are aware of a handgun problem in this country, but in his infinite wisdom, he separated the handgun violence committed by criminals from citizens' rights. He talks about the fear that the federal government would disarm the people in order to impose rule through a standing army or select militia was pervasive in anti-federalistic rhetoric. That's like the colonists were fucked up about England taking away their rights. They were going crazy. That's what he's talking about here. God damn it. You know what? I'm gonna stop this and I'm gonna pick up again because I do want to. By the time I find the fucking thing, it's gonna be too late.